Hello and welcome to Review Magic. So today we'll be reviewing The Poacher. Now Poacher is available on Amazon Prime. It has 8 episodes on it and there's a lot that we have to cover today, starting with my review, analysis, cinematography, direction, story, visual effects, acting performances, and most importantly, should you be watching this show? So stick around, we'll be back soon. Alright, so let's start with the plot of The Poacher, which is essentially about poaching, period. The title says it all. So in this particular show, which is set in the southern state of India, in Kerala, there are some scenes that have been shot in Delhi, but primarily the base is in Kerala. And it is all about these Indian forest officers. You've got local people, NGO workers, and some good Samaritans that are now going to track one of the biggest ivory purchases in India, and their mission is to nab these criminals and bring them to justice. That is what the plot is all about. Now let's jump into my review and analysis. So certainly there is something very spooky about The Poacher. You know, when you see the poster, you know that something bad is going to happen, and the show very quickly, gets into the misty, dark forests of Kerala. So certainly there is this inquisitiveness, the curiosity builds in as to what's gonna happen, and that keeps you hooked from the very start of The Poacher as it begins. There is a lot of serenity in the areas where this web series has been shot. There are not too many people that are shown on the ground. It focuses more on the main characters, and from the outside, the state of Kerala, whether you see it from the top angle or from anywhere, it looks very simple. But as you start to go deeper and deeper, the story starts to become more complicated. Now, from the very start of this show, in addition to, when they're showing this dark, misty forest, you see a poacher who comes to the door of a forest officer, and he is ready to confess about being part of a poaching gang, but the forest officer is not paying any heed to what this person or poacher is saying. So that right there sets the tone and the future direction of this show, and there is a lot that is going to unravel after this, because it creates a series of events, almost like a chain reaction, that is now going to explode in the presence of all the senior officials, because no one has been paying attention to poaching that is happening. This is all going on under their nose, and all of a sudden now someone comes to the door of a senior officer and he's been shooed away, but ultimately he decides to listen, and that's where poaching actually begins. So it's a good start. You really want to, it doesn't waste too much of time trying to get into the nuts and bolts or create too much of fluff, and I like that. It goes straight into, wow, this is what's it hooks you, and it gives me that chance to expect, all right, what's coming next. What you see next is, of course, all the officers, they spring into action. There are some corrupt officers that are suspended, and of course there's a lot of reshuffling happening in the office of this forest service. And what happens is that there are still some good, honest officers. I mean, they owe a duty to the forest and also protecting the wildlife. So that's something also special, because on one side you're seeing some officers corrupt. They don't really care about what's going on in the forest. They're just there for the namesake. But there is also other side of the spectrum where some officers who are touched by the demise or killing of these innocent elephants, and now they're going to do anything and everything to catch these bad actors and forge a plan to immediately catch them. So it is good to see that side in the story very immediately, coming into action and trying to now figure out like how was this happening and now what is it that needs to be done going forward. There's a lot to learn in The Poacher. From an acting perspective, yes, I mean, you will see, and I will talk about this, about the performances, but as an end audience, I mean, you start to understand the game of poaching. Who are the big players? Who are the smaller players? Who are the intermediaries? And the story very beautifully, or actually I should say, details are very intricate. There are big politicians involved, industrialists involved, and why does someone have to do this? And what goes on behind the scenes? I mean, sometimes you may have seen a fake elephant tusk in maybe someone's house or in just on the shows, but to actually see a carving on the elephant tusk and to just kind of reverse the steps and to understand how did it get there in the first place, I think this is pretty nerve-wracking. And after watching Poacher, at least whenever I see an elephant tusk, real or fake, I'm never going to keep my eyes off it. I think I'm always going to think about Poacher and how it brings together all the different elements and makes you think on this entire supply chain to get this tusk as to where it is in someone's living room. So that's pretty exciting to me. It definitely is an intriguing story. Now this issue is, as I mentioned at the beginning, it is centered in the state of Kerala, but the person who ordered the tusk is based out of Delhi. So now there are jurisdiction challenges, there are political challenges, there are bureaucratic challenges, and the honest intelligence officers working in the state of Kerala, they have to maneuver all these tasks, and it's not an easy milestone. I mean, if you work in a corporate world and you've got offices all over the world, you would face this challenge as well. Like, how do you bring together all the team? How do you navigate, get permissions, approvals to make something like this true? How do you nab the bad criminals? So now the story has started to go deeper. It almost feels very logical. I mean, people have to now think far ahead. People have to make a lot of phone calls. The seniors have to get in touch with the other senior people. So it does definitely, make the case for this is going to be a well thought and research drama. I mean, the drama, as you start to see it, it says it's based on, it has taken the feedback from a lot of people in this story. It is a real story, and definitely a lot of cues have gone into make it a much more realistic story to watch. Now, as you watch this story, don't forget that the main actors in the story, they have their own family challenges as well. So, I talked about political, I talked about state challenges, there are bureaucracy issues going on, but there's also that family aspect. Now, for example, one of the actors in this show, he is a physician, a doctor. He is someone who is specialist on snake bites, but he also has a computer job at night. He cannot tell anyone in his family that he is someone who can piece together different patterns, mobile, phone, data, calling, and he wants to track all the bad actors. How are they coordinating and so on. So his family is recluse. One of the main lead, the actor that I'm talking about, he works in Delhi, but then he is brought back to Kerala where his wife and son are. And the wife, of course, I mean, there is a distance that gets created, not just physically, but also emotionally, because the main actor, he is not able to reveal a lot about his job. The other lead actress in this show, she is definitely passionate about her job. Now, her father was a foreign poacher, so she's grown up. She has this guilt within her that she grew up in that environment where all the money that was used to create, to make the food and all is all based on illegal stuff, killing of innocent elephants and all this. So she feels that it's a duty, but she has her own issues with her mom because her mom wants her to kind of take it easy, but the way this job is for this lead actress, it is all about anytime someone can call, she has to be on her toes, she has to be running around. Maybe she hasn't taken a break for a few days, she hasn't slept. So you start to see all the physical and mental and emotional turmoil that also these actors have to face. It's not just so easy, just go find someone and catch them. I mean, this thing takes process, and you have to navigate and balance all these relationships with family. So that was also a very interesting part that was an eye-opener in Poacher to me. So the web series definitely highlights a lot of prevailing issues going on. There is no law and order, there is corruption going on. Forest officers don't care, and there are no protection measures in place. When people are crossing borders, or there are several routes which have loopholes and they have not been continually monitored or checked. So it definitely, one after the other, you will see in Poacher, what are the different circumstances that at every point is bringing down the morale of these officers who are honest and they want to start to bring the bad actors to justice. And the ending of this particular show is sad and unfortunate. I mean, they do nab the people behind this poaching effort, but as you know that ultimately it's all about the middlemen and the people who are at the bottom. No one at the top of the chain ever gets nabbed or put behind the bars. So that is definitely a frustrating part. The forest officials hand over the case to CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation, just like the FBI in the US, but their hands are tied. There is a lot of political pressure, a lot of prominent people are involved, and that is ultimately the reality. They only do so much, but that remains not much. But I'm glad that the director has shown this. I mean, there's not always happy ending to every show. I mean, it ultimately it's left to the audience to understand what can be done next. So in a nutshell, that was my review and analysis. I mean, there is a lot of downs, I should say, in the story from a good perspective. The main story, which is all about poaching, it does create a lasting impact on you, and you start to I don't know if love is the right word, but you definitely get interested in understanding the mechanics, the dynamics. So overall, the analysis of this show, the review for me is positive. There are a lot of it's a dark show, but you will definitely feel for the main protagonist, the actors. You will empathize with the killing of the elephants because nothing has been left behind dark doors. I mean, they even show dead bodies of elephant, and maybe that's visually pictured and all that, but they want you to see it. The level of depth is pretty intense in this show, and that takes me to the next part, which is the direction. And I think the storytelling is marvelous in The Poacher. It was an eye-opener for several reasons. You may have seen a documentary on poaching, but this definitely is like an icing on the cake, because when you see a real story happening, there are actors playing the real people, and the way they have to picturize this, I felt like I didn't have to watch a documentary. This show itself was, much more than the weight of a documentary. So the story was great. The plot, I thought, could have been better. A new, novel, fresh story that brings and highlights some of the atrocities that happen, especially in the poaching. And every time you see a simple fake object like a tusk in anyone's house, you will always be reminded of the brutal realities, the supply chain, and what goes on behind the scenes by a lot of powerful people, or by the middlemen, or the poaching agents that actually go and hunt these elephants. So that definitely a takeaway from you that you will never forget once you experience this show. There is a clear message in The Poacher, and that, of course, is stop poaching. Stop killing innocent animals, and whether it's for their fur, whether it's for their tusk, you cannot mess with the nature, because ultimately the nature will come and mess with you. I mean, there is a purpose of animals being in the jungle, and that is explained in this movie very well by the lead actress. I mean, she says the elephants are walking, they clean the weeds, the dung that comes out, it has some essential nutrients, and so on. So it's kind of also learning 101 on how you can preserve the balance in the nature just by some very basic things. So let nature takes its course, let the wildlife live the way it wants to, and don't disturb it. So the director Richie Mehta has definitely done a great job here. He is the creator of Delhi Crime show, which you may or may not have seen on Netflix. I thought it was a great show as well. He's the writer for the movie called Sidharth, That's My Name, and that also was one of my favorite stories. I've done a review a long time back on Sidharth. In terms of direction, again, this is definitely a great story to watch, and I would recommend you watching it. I think Richie Mehta definitely has a unique style of storytelling. He goes down to creating some of the dark stories. I mean, Delhi Crime was an intense crime thriller, and so is Poaching. And Sidharth also, although it's just a story of a boy who goes missing, it just tells you that, but Sidharth was also all about a son that goes missing because of exploitation, because of trafficking, and so on. So very hard-hitting stories that impact, if not millions, thousands of people all over India because of heinous crime happening around. That's my sense on Richie's direction. Now let's talk about screenplay. And when you hear the dialogues in the story, it's definitely worth listening to. When they come from senior level officers, the protagonist, lead actor, actresses, I mean, there are sentences, there are dialogues that will make you think about a lot of things. It definitely appears that there's a lot of research and homework has been done to consult people who are involved in this real story, consultants that are very familiar with the forest conservation and so on. So I don't think there was a moment where I felt that the screenplay seemed too heavy or boring or dry. It has its punch at every instant. This has been written to make sure that you understand the gravity of the situation. I watched Poacher in English translation. I mean, this is a Malayalam based show and also available in other languages, but I was watching the subtitles in English, and I was also listening to all the drama unfolding in the English language. Even in English, the intensity is there. So screenplay to me also does a very good job to have that somber, serious effect on this show. I mean, they all have to go hand in hand. So good overall screenplay and dialogue writing. Now, cinematography was my favorite, and I can tell you why. Because there is becoming this trend in India or in Bollywood to now create this dark blue background. Shows a crime is going to unfold, or there is going to be something bad that's going to happen. You see that in shows like Ozark in Hollywood, and now the same thing is coming there. But the aerial shots of this misty dark forest in Kerala, you see a lot of close-ups. You see all these animals. There's this scene where they show the face of the elephant, and almost someone kills the elephant. There are a lot of ways, lot of angles that you see the whole story too. There is barely any sunlight being used, even during daytime. Maybe due to the filter on the camera. It is a dark show. To the point where sometimes it is really difficult to know what is being shown, what animal is there. So I thought that part maybe should have been cut out or something. But overall, I think that it still depicts not only the serenity but also the darkness of the place because of the way the camera work has been done. And if I'm not wrong, the cinematography has been done by a foreign artist. Now this is also becoming a trend where you're bringing in artists from all over the world, American, Canadian, Australian, British, whoever, and you can see there is a difference in the cinematography. I'm not saying had it been an Indian, it wouldn't have been brilliant or good, but all of a sudden, because the world today has become so seamless, you watch Ozark and you see the same shade, the filter, the style, the angle, you start to feel like this is the work of an outsider. But regardless, the cinematography is great. That was one of my favorite parts to see, even cars that were meandering through the roads of the Kerala forest. There's just lights blinking, and they try to show the emotions of all the actors at a very close up, and I thought that was simply superb. We should also talk about the music composition of the show. Now, if you have been watching my web series or reviews, you will notice that I do pay attention to music a lot. For me, the music also is a way to tell me how much of work has been put to make sure that the music complements the entire story. And when you come from India, like me, in Bollywood, of course, they put a lot of music. We've got 5 to 6 songs that are 5 to 8 minutes long, or maybe 3 minutes long, and they kind of blend into the overall essence of a movie. So music to me is definitely important. I always look forward to it, especially when the intro is there. The music at the intro, the music while the story is progressing at every stage, and also at the end, the outro. So when you see the show starting, it shows you the tusk, and it shows you the different angles on the tusk, the different design artwork that has been done. It almost reminds you that this is similar to the show Crown, where there's a lot of close-up on the crown, and all the subtitles, the names of the artists come. So music also has been done by a foreign artist, and I can't tell you that this was a brilliant composition and notes, because I think for a few days that music was in my mind. Even when I was sleeping, I could feel and it was really good. It kind of fits into this story very well. Even when there are good, bad moments in the story, you want to have that music as part of the editing process and to kind of build that momentum overall. So I thought that this was really moving and touching. The music was definitely the soul of Poacher. Now let's talk about the acting performances, and I'm going to start with Nimisha Sajjan. Now she's a South Indian actress, and probably this was the first time that I saw her on the screen, and she is a smart cop. She is passionate about her job. She has that very intense looks on her face. Now when I say intense, I don't mean bringing too many wrinkles on the face, on the forehead and all that. She has a calm face, and that calm face just evokes a lot of emotions. Like you can almost read her face as to what is she trying to tell you. And most of the times, of course, she's agitated, she's frustrated with the killings, but I loved her acting performance. I thought that even when she was not saying much, her expressions were just simply immaculate. She blends into the character of that cop, a senior cop, and I almost felt that I was looking at a serious cop in real life, and this is what would be happening. And she perfectly fit into the shoes of the real cop who must have gone through all of this. Never did I feel that she was overacting, and I can tell you that silence is her biggest gift. And that is her acting prowess, at least in the Poacher that I've seen. Like, she's a tenacious person. She's going one after the other. And you start to almost feel like, what are others doing in this show? She's almost overpowered everyone by her personality, by the way she is. And definitely she's a senior cop. And you can see that she loves challenges, and her hands are tied. She's trying her level best. So good acting performances by Nimisha. Now let's talk about the acting performance of Roshan Mathew, who is another actor and works together with Nimisha. Now at the very early scenes, you see like a happy-go-lucky guy. He's goofy, he's funny. He's actually, he's a doctor and a specialist in snake bites, but he also has a night job where he is a computer programmer, so he's a pretty smart guy too. By the time he comes to Kerala to start investigating this, you can see a change in his character. He's no longer that funny go, making jokes. He becomes absolutely serious. And I thought Roshan does that job pretty well. The acting performances were good. Definitely made it feel like the chemistry with Nimisha and him on this job were definitely the right choice choice and casting, according to me. The third person who's acting I wanna highly commend is Dibyendu Bhattacharya. Now he is the boss. He's the lead of all this investigation that is happening. He goes by Neil Banerjee. He's of course from the state of Calcutta. Now he is in the state living in Kerala, and now everything has gone berserk for him. But Dibyendu Bhattacharya is one of the finest actors and performances you will see in the Indian cinema show. Now, from a very long time, I've been observing him. There are a lot of shows that I have seen. And what I feel is that Dibyendu has always been in the back front. Even at the back, he has given performances that have been worth noting. But in Poacher, he gets that front seat. And I thought that was a brilliant on the take of the director Richie Mehta to give Dibyendu that chance, because he did a fantastic job. Roshan and Nimisha are definitely good actors, but someone who sits at the top and someone who is mentoring, monitoring, supervising Dibyendu, who also is suffering from lung tumor in the movie, in the show, pulls off a great performance. I thought that he deserves that accolade and acknowledgement. He's always had that crooked, rude performance that I have seen in the past, but in this show, he's that boss. As I said, he's the team leader, and he will do anything and everything to get the work done. And speaking of work, he's a workaholic in the show, so his relationship with his wife is also suffering because he doesn't listen, he doesn't eat food, he doesn't go out with his wife that often. But as he gets time at the end, culprits are caught, he of course is spending more time with his wife now. But Dibyendu definitely, I couldn't have been more happier to see Dibyendu playing that lead role in the front and definitely being that glue to the show. According to me, if Dibyendu was not part of the show, it probably wouldn't have felt great. And other actors who are supporting Dibyendu, Nimisha and Roshan were equally good. Whether it was Poachers, the middlemen, I thought everyone was overall superb in the Poacher. Now, when it comes to editing of the Poacher, every show is 35 to 45 minutes long. And it doesn't feel like it's being dragged or there's a lot of fluff. From the very beginning, I'm telling you that Richie Mehta wants to come to the point. And I think that's what editing does. It just compresses everything so well that you feel like, sometimes you feel like you're hungry for more, but it lets the audience think, all right, this is what needs to happen. So the editing also, I didn't think there were any issues in the Poacher. Now, there are visual effects used in this show. There are a lot of animals that have been shown, including elephants to snake to fox and so on. All I would say is that all of the visual effects were good. There are times when you feel like there is an overuse of showing animals at every point, snake, fox. There comes a point where you don't have to show animals every time on the tree, dangling down a branch and so on. So, but the visual effects were pretty decent, I would say. Without them, you couldn't have felt that you were in a jungle or, in a remote area of Kerala near the forest. Now, the last and most important part is like why you should be watching Poacher or why you should not be watching Poacher. What's the conclusion and my rating? So, if you're a fan of wildlife, you like forest conservation and, you get aroused by, life and, the unnecessary killing of elephants or animals for poaching, for skin, for tusk, anything. This is a great story for those people. It's nothing to do with Alia Bhatt being the executive producer of the show, but I think it is more about the story that it touches you, and it touched me. I was always intrigued to just see what's going to happen next. When are they going to catch the bad actors? What kind of plot they put in to get the bad elements and trap them, and what it takes to get the tusk out of that one remote small city in Delhi. That is also an intense scene. This is a drama that you cannot forget for several days. This will be, you live to the day to recount and tell the stories to other people. And I thought that I almost wish that there was more to it. Who are the bad? I wish that they had nabbed the politicians, the industrialists that go on to do these nasty things, but that didn't happen. Of course, there are limitations in the show, so it sticks to the reality, and I thought that. The performances, the story, the messaging were great. It couldn't have been a great show to pick, or a great topic to pick and bring it out in front of audience. And ultimately, you don't need an A-star actors to package such a great story. I'm not saying Roshan, Dibyendu, Nimisha, they are brilliant actors, especially in their own genres in this area, but you don't need super duper commercial Bollywood actors. That would have been a misfit. I mean, they chose actors that feel very organic. Even the poachers or the agents, the people who are killing, you feel they're the people living next door. And I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, this is not about a show where you're gonna have people who are very fit, 8-packs, or all that, always doing makeup and well done. I mean, the hair, the weight issues. It's like an everyday show. People that you wanna see, you can relate and connect to it. That's the most important part that you see in Poacher. You will love the scenery of Kerala. You will love these majestic elephants and also animals in general. So this is a real story, guys. It's dark, it's intense, but I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10. I mean, I'm taking 1 point away because, as I mentioned in the visual effects, sometimes it gets too dark, and I think that for the human eye to come from a light to a dark area and then go back, I know shows are being made that way to arouse that intensity. I get that, but of course sometimes it was too dark, sometimes there were way too many animals that were shown that were unnecessary. But I think that the story has a punch. I wish there was more marketing done on this particular show. Alia Bhatt being the executive producer, I thought there should have been more press releases come out, more interviews, but I didn't see that happening a lot in this Poacher. Even the actors, the Dibyendu or the producer, director, Richie Mehta coming. But nevertheless, there are people like me who are bringing out the story. So guys, that will conclude my story and my review about the Poacher. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, please mention below. And if you liked it, please like or subscribe to the channel. I'll keep coming out with some great stories and their reviews to make sure that you watch them and then you decide for yourself whether you want to watch it or not. So until then, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.